Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So today we are at the very last page of the Buddha and his Dhamma, and this, as we have seen in the previous classes, this is also a very important part of the Buddha and his Dhamma, and this stands at the subsection 3 of the epilogue, and it's titled as a prayer for his return to his native land. So that is what is it all about. So before I embark on this study, let me give you a brief background as to from where does it come from. So it comes from, as it is given the reference here, Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics, Volume 1, Volume 10, page number 169. So I looked into this encyclopedia to see the actual reference, and I found that it's a part of an encyclopedia of religion and ethics, and it runs into 12 volumes. And this particular prayer is taken from the volume number 10, and it's titled as prayer in Buddhism. So this is the part of what is called a prayer in Buddhism, and that too, there is an entry which says that it's in Mahayana Buddhism. So this prayer has been taken from the Mahayana Buddhist resources, and there are many other discussions on the prayers in Mahayana Buddhism, but Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar has taken this from the from that prayer section of this Encyclopedia of Religion, particularly concerned with Mahayana Buddhism. And actually, the title there in the reference is Homage to the Buddha of Infinite Light. So that was a title which is given there, that it is the fifth section in the volume 10, and there is titled as what is called the Homage to the Buddha of Infinite Light. Now, the Buddha of Infinite Light is, of course, known in the Buddhist history as the Amitabha Buddha. And it's one of the very popular schools of Buddhism throughout the world, called the Pure Land Practices, or Sukhavati Buddhism, which is based on the Sukhavati View Sutra. There are two, larger and a smaller one. So Amitabh, of course, means the Buddha of Infinite Light. And what Babasaheb Ambedkar did, he changed the title of the prayer, and it's given here in the Buddha and his Dhamma as a prayer for his return to his native land. So Babasaheb Ambedkar has changed the title and made it into a prayer for his return to his native land. Now, in the Ambedkarite circle, the words such as prayer or worship has a very negative connotation, as we tend to see that Buddhism, in terms of more rationalistic or more reasoning point of view of the reason and logic, and it has its own place, because Buddhism is, of course, a logical and reasonable and rational system of thoughts. But at the same time, as we have seen here, there is a scope for a prayer, but this prayer is not an ordinary prayer. It's a invocation that comes from within your own deeper responses, and it's addressed to, of course, the Buddha, his return to his native land. Now, what do I understand by native land here? So native land is, of course, the place where the Buddha was born, and that land is, of course, India. So we can, of course, look at this particular retitling of the homage to the Buddha of Infinite Light in terms of Baba Sahib Ambedkar's, or the prayer of each one of us for the return of the Buddha in his native land, that is the Jambudvip or India. So I think this retitling is also very significant, because Baba Sahib Ambedkar has this deep urge to bring back Buddhism in India. He has this deep commitment to bring back Buddhism where it was born. So I think the title, the change in the title of the original prayer into a prayer for his return to his native land, has a very deep significance and connotation, as we have seen that the Buddha and his Dhamma was written with a particular purpose, with a particular thinking, with a particular aim, with a particular goal, with a particular vision. That is to bring back the Buddha's Dhamma back to Buddha. And therefore, I think that this retitling of the original prayer is very significant, and we can think very deeply through it. And we keep this attitude of bringing back the Buddha's Dhamma to his native land while I read this prayer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first read this prayer continuously, and then we'll gloss over some of the very final points of this prayer. So I read the poem or the prayer. O exalted one, I trust myself wholeheartedly to the Tathagata, whose light pervades without any impediment the regions in the 10 quarters, and express my earnest desire to be born in thy land. In realizing in vision the appearance of thy land, I know that it surpasses all realms in the threefold existence, that it is like sky embracing all, vast and spacious, without boundaries. Thy mercy and compassion, in accordance with the righteous way, is an outgrowth of the stock of merits accumulated by thee, which are beyond all worldly good. And thy light permeates everywhere, like the mirrors of the sun and the moon. Let me pray that all beings, having been born there, shall proclaim the truth like Buddha thyself. Herewith I write down this essay and utter these verses, and pray that I could see thee, O Buddha, face to face, and that I could, together with all my fellow beings, attain the birth in the land of bliss. So you see, this prayer looks like an ordinary prayer on the face of it, but if we go deep into it, as we will be dwelling deep into the very spirit of the prayer, we are going to see how important it is. And it's a part of a Buddhist practice to remind ourselves all the time about the significance of such a prayer. And so this prayer is written by a very famous philosopher in the Buddhist history, Vasubandhu. And Vasubandhu, of course, is considered to be one of the founding fathers of the Sukhavati Buddhism, or the Pure Land Buddhism. And Vasubandhu, he was a figure who tried to unify all the disparate Buddhist schools in the history of Buddhism. And where he talked about the bringing together all disparate Buddhist systems of thoughts and practices together, and that was his genius. So Vasubandhu was one of the greatest of the philosophers in the Buddhist traditions, and this is the prayer written by him. So let me go slowly, word by word, to bring out very deep meaning of this prayer that we have to pray. O exalted one, it's of course referred to the Buddha, in this case the Buddha of infinite light, and we can liken the Shakyamuni Buddha itself with the infinite light. And another word by which the Amitabha is defined as Amitayu, infinite life. So there is no end to life, and there is no end to light. So life, of course, related to the infinite compassion, and light is related to the infinite or boundless wisdom of the Buddha. So compassion and wisdom. Amitayu and Amitabha. It's same thing. It's the you cannot separate the great compassion Mahakaruna from Mahaprajna. They are the same sort of things looked at from inward and outward perspective. So it's addressed to the Buddha, O exalted one, and this is a very significant. This particular sentence is very significant. I trust myself wholeheartedly. Means I trust myself wholeheartedly to the Tathagata, whose light pervades, without any impediment, the regions in the 10 quarters, and express my earnest desire to be born in thy land. So the verse number 1 is taking refuge in the Tathagata. And it's not half-hearted one, it's a wholehearted one. So trusting myself wholeheartedly to the Tathagata. Now, what is the quality of the Tathagata? Whose light pervades. So his wisdom pervades without any impediment. There is no obstruction to the wisdom of the Buddha. It's free to spread. And the regions in the 10 quarters, there is no also the constraint of any direction. It spreads everywhere in all the directions. And trusting myself wholeheartedly to the Tathagata, whose light pervades. So placing our heart onto the Tathagata wholeheartedly, with a trust, fully trusting, isn't it? Now this word Vishwas or trust is a very significant word in the Buddhist tradition. And when we come to the Santa tradition in India, the Vishwas or the word trust has a very deep significance. Unless we have the trust in the teacher or the Sadguru, the Buddha, we cannot walk the path. So we should have this trust of wholeheartedly, giving ourselves to the Buddha, because he has a light which pervades all directions without any impediment. So having the trust is a beginning point, is a good point, but it's not enough. And we have to cultivate that, express, my earnest desire to be born in thy land, Sukhavati, the land of happiness, the land of bliss, the land of, nirvana. And this is a very important, sentence here, because we have to have the earnest desire. Having desire is not enough. We should have the earnest desire to be born in the land of the Buddha. That is the land of Sukhavati, the land of nirvana, the land of supreme bliss, isn't it? So trusting oneself to the Buddha, but at the same time having that earnest desire to be born in the land of the Buddha. It's very important. So two important words: trusting ourselves wholeheartedly, not inch and inch there left, wholeheartedly trusting ourselves to the Tathagata, and having that cultivation of the desire, that chitta, to be born in thy land. So desire, trust and desire, very beautiful words. We have to be able to trust with our earnest desire. In realizing in vision the appearance of thy land, I know that it surpasses all realms in the threefold existence. Now, this threefold existence is a very common theme in Buddhism, called the Trilok in the Indian languages: the loka of senses, the loka of subtle mental states like Rupa Loka and Arupa Loka. But we are not going to go into that. And what is significant here is this, that the state of Nibbana is beyond this Trilok. It's beyond this Trilok. Then, as we can see that, in the traditional description of the Nibbana, Nirodha Samapatti, where it's very described in a very beautiful way, the experience of Nibbana. So in realizing in vision the appearance of thy land, so when I realize in my vision the appearance of your land, I know. So we have to know that it surpasses all realms in the threefold existence. So there is no dhatu, There is, even we cannot call it dhatu. There is no place, even we cannot call it place. There is no experience like the experience of Nibbana. Isn't it? It surpasses all the existence. And how is it like? It's a description of the Nibbanic state. How is it like? The verse number 3 goes like this, that it is like sky, embracing all. So what does the sky do? It embraces all, isn't it? Sky-like mind. We don't know the end of the sky, isn't it? It's envelops, embraces all. So the Nibbanic consciousness or the Nibbanic state of being is the state which is boundless, which cannot be obstructed by any obstacle, and it's like light pervading everywhere. And it's like a sky. As we look at the sky, we know that it embraces everything, the black clouds or the windy clouds or whatever clouds there are. It embraces everything. And how is it? Vast and spacious, without boundaries. So you see, limitless, apariman. So we have to understand this figurative language and understand its significance, that is trying to make us understand the land of the Buddha, the Sukhavati, the land of the bliss, the land of nirvana, the land of the highest dwelling that one can enter into. And how is it like? In the verse number 3, it said that it's like sky, embracing all, vast and spacious, without boundaries. And the verse number 4, thy mercy and compassion in accordance with the righteous way. So, the compassion, the karuna of the Buddha is according to the righteous way. And how does that compassion arises in the Buddha? Is an outgrowth of the stock of merits accumulated by thee, which are beyond all worldly goods. So the compassion here, which is described here, is not an ordinary compassion, isn't it? It's acquired, it's the outgrowth, it's a continuation, it's a result of the Buddha's continuously accumulating the stock of merits, and which are beyond all worldly goods. So the compassion is raised here to the highest, beyond all worldly good. So, ordinary good in the world is nothing compared with the compassion of the Tathagata. The compassion of the Tathagata, we cannot describe it just like that. But you see, the compassion of the Buddha, if we see in the Jataka tales, we don't know whether they are really happened or not. But the essence of the Jataka tales is to demonstrate to us the qualities which cannot be otherwise demonstrated through the mere metaphors. So, in the form of the stories, we have seen how the Buddha's compassion manifested in terms of sacrificing his own life, even ready to give his own body many, many times for the sake of other human beings. And that's a very profound compassion of the Buddha. It's not ordinary worldly good. The compassion of the Buddha is very deeply profound, that the Buddha or the compassion or the awakened one is ready to give up everything, even their lives, for the sentient beings, for all the sentient beings. So the verse number 4, thy mercy and compassion in accordance with the righteous way is an outgrowth of the stock of merits accumulated by thee, which are beyond all worldly goods. So that's the compassion of the Buddha. Profound, deep compassion of the Buddha. And the verse number 5, and thy light permeates everywhere, like the mirrors of the sun and the moon. You see, we see the sun and the moon, apparently the two sources of light. And the mirroring of the sun and moon will create a light which we cannot, imagine the intensity of that light, isn't it? So, it's not just the ordinary light. We have to understand the figures very deeply. It's not just the ordinary light. It's a light that at the highest form, in terms of the sun. In our context, in the planetary system or in the cosmic system, The earth gets maximum light out of the sun. It's a major source of light. And in the night, as reflected by the moon is the major source of light. It's the sunlight itself reflected by the moon in the night. And we know that, mirroring of these magnificent sources, these sources of light, mirroring each other, it's like, making it manifold. So this is not an ordinary language. It looks poetic, but at a very deep level, it's trying to communicate something very deep, something very profound. So you see, the verse number 5 is about the wisdom or the prajna of the Buddha, and thy light permeates everywhere like the mirrors of the sun and the moon. So imagine both as the mirror, emitting such an intensity of light. And the verse number 6, very important. Let me pray, let me urge that all beings, it's not this being or that being, all beings, having been born there, shall proclaim the truth like Buddha thyself. So you see, whenever we are born in that land, when we attain to the nirvana, we are the Buddhas. Isn't it? There is no essential difference between we, us, and the Buddha. And once we are born there, shall proclaim the truth like Buddha himself. So each of them who has this vision of awakening will proclaim this truth the way the Buddha did it throughout his life. And this is such, I would say, a democratic, to use a word from the political science, a sentiment, isn't it? That each one of us, whoever is born into that vision, whoever is born into that land, shall proclaim the same truth, or the truth of the Dhamma, like Buddha thyself. So you see the intensity of this, words. If we go deep into that, we begin to see the light unobstructed, shining in all directions, mirroring itself, and which is backed by the prayer that all beings, having been born there, having awakened to that vision, shall proclaim the truth like Buddha thyself. And the verse number 7. Because once you have this wholehearted trust, once you have this earnest desire to be born, to be awakened to the nirvana, and entrusting yourself to the Buddha, Tathagata, then herewith, the verse number 7, it comes down to us. Now you understand, where, now there is a first person here, I. So imagine yourself, or imagine Baba Sahib Ambedkar there. So what the verse number 7 communicates is very deep. Herewith I write down this essay and utter these verses and pray that I could see thee, O Buddha, face to face. Seeing the Buddha, seeing face to face is like seeing our own, purified mind deeply, face to face. Jokatyo. And you see, this goes very deeply. Herewith I wrote down this essay. Now imagine that why, the Baba Sahib Ambedkar has written this 600 over page book. What was the intention of that? Why, the Buddha, Baba Sahib Ambedkar has this prayer in his heart? Why? That, O Buddha, I could see you face to face. And that I could, together with all my fellow beings, attain the birth in the land of bliss. Now this is like, the crescendo of the musical piece. It gradually builds up with the wholeheartedly trusting oneself to the Tathagata, earnest desire to attain to the nirvana or to be born in the Buddha land, and then describing into the wisdom and the compassion of the Buddha, and then praying with all sentient beings to be born in that land, so that everybody will proclaim the truth, and then writing down or uttering these verses. I pray that I could see the Buddha face to face, and not only seeing the Buddha face to face, but also with all sentient beings, with all fellow beings, attain the birth in the land of bliss. It's not just for me, it's not just for it's for all. So this prayer, if we look at it, it's a multi-dimensional. There are many threads here. We can untie it in many ways. But at the core of it, the central is the I, me, isn't it? And it's addressed in the first person. It's I who is praying. It means that it's our responsibility to entrust ourselves wholeheartedly to the Tathagata and create that earnest desire to be born, to attain to the Nibbana, knowing that it's a sure path. And what is the path? The path is made up of the compassion and the wisdom of the Buddha, which is boundless, which is not confined to a particular set of human beings or beings. And the purpose of writing this essay or writing this book or even talking about it is to be able to see, attain to the Nibbana, so that we can see the Buddha face to face, and together with all the fellow beings attain the birth in the land of bliss. So I'm going to read it again before I go on commenting about other aspect of it. So please lend me your ear, listen carefully. The last part of the Buddha and his Dhamma, Epilogue 3, a prayer for his return to his native land. O exalted one, I trust myself wholeheartedly to the Tathagata, whose light pervades without any impediment the regions in the 10 quarters, and express my earnest desire to be born in thy land. In realizing in vision the appearance of thy land, I know that it surpasses all realms in the threefold existence. That it's like sky embracing all, vast and spacious, without boundaries. Thy mercy and compassion, in accordance with the righteous way, is an outgrowth of the stock of merits accumulated by thee, which are beyond all worldly good. And thy light permeates everywhere, like the mirrors of the sun and the moon. Let me pray that all beings, having been born there, shall proclaim the truth like Buddha thyself. Herewith I write down this essay and utter these verses, and pray that I could see thee, O Buddha, face to face, and that I could, together with all my fellow beings, attain the birth in the land of bliss. So this is the last part of the Buddha and his Dhamma, and as I told you that I tried to explore deeply into this, and I realized that it's very deep. So here, this prayer, as we can see, is attributed to Vasubandhu, and we have to think about this prayer very seriously. So here, the Buddha taught, the Vasubandhu taught about the 5 gates for the Buddha, to reach to the land of the Buddha. But these 5 gates can be considered to be the gates by which the Buddha can arrive in India. So how does the Buddha can arrive to India? So 5 gates for the Buddha to arrive to India. So number one, we know that according to the Buddhist knowledge of things, the human personality is made up of kaya, vacha, mana, body, mind, and speech. So how, what do we do with it? So the first gate to let the Buddha come in to this native land is to surrender our body to the Buddha. So we have to surrender wholeheartedly with our body to the Buddha, which can mean that, practicing the Buddha's Dhamma with our own bodies, making right efforts to the body, surrendering our body, our physical existence to the Buddha. The second gate is surrendering our speech to the Buddha. So speech also means thinking. Speech also means expressing. Isn't it? Writing and, speaking and also thinking. So surrendering our speech to the Buddha. And the ultimate is our mind. Surrendering our mind to the vision of the Buddha. So, you see, it is not an ordinary mind that we surrender to the Buddha. Isn't it? Surrendering our concentrated mind to the Buddha. More refined mind to the Buddha. It's very profound. It's not an ordinary mind or day-to-day mind, our mind that is caught up in the sensory world. We surrender our refined mind to the Buddha, or concentrated mind to the Buddha. And in the Buddhist parlance, the concentrated mind is equated with the samatha. Isn't it? Samatha is a state of mind where the mind is concentrated, where the mind is calmed down, where the mind is at ease. It's not agitated anymore. So the third gate by which the Buddha comes back to the country, our country, is by surrendering our concentrated mind to the Buddha, the samatha, practicing samatha. Surrendering our mind to the vision of the Buddha. So, surrendering our mind to the truth is vipassana. Isn't it? So this is the fourth gate. And fifth is very profound. Surrendering everything in the service of alleviating the suffering of others without regards to oneself. Compassion. The mind that is imbued with compassion. That is the mind which is imbued with the supreme sense of sacrifice. The Buddha changed the meaning of the word sacrifice. Buddha taught to sacrifice oneself for the sake of others. There were different concepts of sacrifices, animal sacrifices, this sort of sacrifices for the personal gain. The Buddha said, you sacrifice yourself for others. That is the highest sacrifice one can make. So that's ultimately the highest form of compassion, surrendering everything in the service of alleviating the suffering of others without regards to oneself. So you see these five gates by which the Buddha can come to this country are so beautifully at the end of the Buddha and his Dhamma are enshrined in this prayer that is attributed to Vasubandhu, and his explanation that I'm now narrating to you in terms of the five gates by which the Buddha can come to this country, or the Buddhism can be revived in this country by making physical efforts, by putting our body at the service of the Buddha, surrendering our body to the Buddha, making physical efforts, making hard efforts to make the Buddha arrive in his native land, surrendering our speech to the Buddha, our power of expression, both written and oral, and expression is manifold. Music and arts, whatnot. It comes under that expression. And we don't surrender our ordinary mind to the Buddha. We surrender our concentrated mind to the Buddha, our more refined mind to the Buddha, our more sublime mind to the Buddha. And the fourth gate by which the Buddha can arrive in this native land is by surrendering our mind to the vision of the Buddha, to the nirvana itself, to the awakening itself, to knowing as it is, to see as it is, vipassana. And the fifth, surrendering everything in the service of alleviating the sufferings of others without regards to oneself. So this is a 5-point program that's very important at the heart of bringing back Buddhism back to India, back to the native land. And it's so beautifully arranged here by Vasubandhu, and so deeply, understood by Baba Sahib Ambedkar and given at the end of the Buddha is Dhamma. So I think that's enough for this epilogue. There is so much you can explore, because as I tell you often in the class, reading Buddha and Dhamma, studying Buddha and Dhamma is not just reading any ordinary book. It's like peeling layers after layers, layers after layers, layers after layers. So reading it often, again and again, making it a practice of our day-to-day life enables us to see, witness the great depth of the Buddha and his Dhamma. And the more depth of the Buddha and his Dhamma we witness, we touch, experience the mind of our Baba Sahib Ambedkar himself, the mind of boundless compassion and the mind of boundless wisdom that we experience in the mind of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, that manifold, that manifested in his being, where he could transform the life of millions and millions, and he would continue to transform, bring out many innumerable human beings out of the realm of suffering of all kinds. So you see, that's the beauty of the Buddha and his Dhamma. So before I open up it again for any discussion or comment, I just read it again so that we end this my narration with this beautiful prayer again. A prayer for his return to his native land. O exalted one, I trust myself wholeheartedly to the Tathagata, whose light pervades without any impediments the regions in the 10 quarters, and express my earnest desire to be born in thy land. In realizing in vision the appearance of thy land, I know that it surpasses all realms in the threefold existence, that it's like sky, embracing all, vast and spacious, without boundaries. Thy mercy and compassion, in accordance with the righteous way, is an outgrowth of the stock of merits accumulated by thee, which are beyond all worldly good. And thy light permeates everywhere, like the mirrors of the sun and the moon. Let me pray that all beings, having been born there, shall proclaim the truth like Buddha thyself. Herewith I write down this essay and utter these verses and pray that I could see thee, O Buddha, face to face, and that I could, together with all my fellow beings, attain the birth in the land of bliss, Sukhavati. So I stop here and open up the class for any comments, anything that you would like to reflect upon. So anybody has anything to say?
Jai Bhim, sir.
Shashank?
Yes. It's beautiful interpretation and beautiful explanation, sir. It's wonderful. It's like I feel that whenever I read this prayer, it's all about of creating this land, creating the Buddha land. Even though they say that we need to born in the Dai land, but I will say that it's creating the Buddha land, and you beautifully summarize at the end of the Vasubandhu's 5 gates, like surrendering our body, speech, and mind, and surrendering everything in the service of alleviating in the suffering of others. That's beautiful explanation. But my one of the thread I picked up from this prayer is like, if we imagine that, if we go back to the 2,500 years before, and imagine that we born there in the land of Buddha, where the Buddha exists physically, and then we are in that land, and we are practicing the Buddha's thinking, the Buddha's teachings there, and then that vision is we are born there, and that land is it surpasses all realms in the threefold existence, that says in the verse number 2. It's so beautiful, and then how does it feel to practice all those teachings taught by Buddha, and everybody is so happy, the Sukhavati. And then when we go and then see that when we get an opportunity that, oh, the Buddha is coming to our land and Buddha is coming to our area, how that feeling, that feeling is so beautiful. And then the seventh verse I found so beautiful, that I pray that I could see the Buddha face to face. I could see the Buddha face to face. And then how that feeling is so beautiful, is so profound, that I can see the Buddha. And then how he will see me, how I can talk to him, how can I, place my full heart, to give my whole heart in front of the Buddha, and then worship him, bow down him in front of him, and then sit in front of him, and then listen to his discourse, listen to his teachings, and then how he how he answer my questions, how he communicates with me. And that's beautiful feeling, that I can see the Buddha, I can talk to Buddha, I can express all my desire, that I want to create a beautiful life. And how can I create that life? How can I now pass all my impediments, all the obstacles that I'm always face in my day-to-day life? And then how the Buddha will answer to those questions, So that feeling that, yes, I really want to create that land in this 21st century, in this world. How the land which can create the Sariputta of today's 21st century, the Moggallana to today's 21st century, and the Ananda of today's 21st century, to the service of others, to service of elevating suffering of others, and to service of the Buddha. So that I can say, the feeling I always get whenever I try to read this. And I really want to read this, the seventh verse again. Herewith I write down this essay and utter these verses, and I pray that I could see the Buddha face to face, and that I could see together with all my fellow beings, attain the birth in the land of bliss. Thank you.
Shashank, beautiful, very nicely expressed. So anyone? Pankaj, Rahul, Dara. So I think with the reading of this, we have come to our detailed study of the Buddha's Dhamma that we have been studying for nearly 2 years, and we have had about 98 sessions with this. And in 98 sessions, we tried to cover the 8 books of the Buddha's Dhamma. And I think these are all recorded and available on our YouTube channel. And I think this is some kind of a resource that we can go back to again when we have some difficulties while reading the Buddha's Dhamma. So with that earnest desire that we started this study of the Buddha's Dhamma, and we have accomplished quite a task in terms of studying all every page, I would say every word of the Buddha's Dhamma in a very profound manner, and it will continue to, I hope, help those who are trying to seek the study of the Buddhism, understand the mind of the Baba Sahib Ambedkar, ultimately the mind of the Buddha himself. So I think this has been a very fascinating sort of a study that we have been undertaking, and I can say that a lot of you, some of who have joined today, have been always there, and some of our friends who have been joining in. It's not easy to join something, study like this for continuously for so many weeks, and we could all do that. It's a great testimonies to our efforts to know more about Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar's, vision of the practices of the Buddhism. And as we can see that, the Buddha's Dhamma itself is such a monumental, visionary book full of light and life that we can all benefit by reading it. And I know that as the time passes, this deep message of the Buddha's Dhamma will be unraveled by many people, who would be studying the Buddha's Dhamma with that right faith and with right trust. So with this, we end today, and Thank you so much, all.
Sir,
Yes, Dara.
sir, I want to thank you for organizing this session. I'm truly grateful to have found this session. Gave many answers of I had questions and couldn't join earlier, but I do watch on YouTube whenever I get time, and it's a really great help.
Good to hear. Good to hear
Learning.
that, Dara. Good to hear that, Dara.
Mangesh sir, this is Pankaj here.
Pankaj.
You took us to this book line by line, word by word, and then breaking down each word. Now it is 96 or 98 class last 2 years. One person constant was you. Whether it is one person reading or not, you are determined to do. Even if nobody is there, I will record, and it is will be for the benefit of masses. And it is really unparalleled work you did.
Thank
I
you.
think
I'm
I
happy to
think
do it.
Yeah, sir, there is one more appendix pending. I think this class you did not say that I'll see you again in the next class. So,
Please say.
so it felt really, something different in your, climax of each class. So I think we can meet again.
Okay.
What we learned, what we understood from that, and what we feel the way you took up this task in last 2 years. Whether we can do something in the benefit of masses, and we can express our feeling for you. Entire house is not there, but I think we will do one more class some in near future, if it's okay with.
Thank you, Pankaj bhai. Thank you.
Thank you, Mangesh. It's really great work. Thank you for introducing us this line by line, word by word.
Thank you. I'm very
Yeah,
happy to.
thank you, sir. I am again. I have again decided to go it one by one again all the lectures, because
Okay.
whatever I think in the last part, whatever was explained, that is a crux of entire book,
Right.
and we need to be get into detail of each and everything. So every
Right.
time if we listen to that class, means I myself feel that I am getting some new insights into these things. So again, thank for
Thank
this
you.
wonderful work. And I will leverage it again and again, and will try to spread it. Thank you.
I think that's what we can do, Rahul bhai. Your continuous participation, Rahul, Pankaj, Shashank, Dara, Samiksha, has been a wonderful way, and I feel very gratified for, all of us reaching to this stage where, we have together studied this wonderful book. As I often say that, even a single line matters of this book. And I found, more and more when I go back, I find many things, and, many important hidden sort of a messages. We're very rational Buddhists, and we don't believe in hidden messages or like that. But I think, the more layers that you unpeel of this profound work like the Buddha and his Dhamma, we begin to see many, fascinating aspects of it. And it's like a multifaceted diamond, isn't it? And this reflects light. It's like a source of a light. And whenever we have difficulties or whatever, I think what we can rely on Baba Sahib Ambedkar's message, and pointing us out to the highest in the world, the Buddha. And this profound sense of faith that Baba Sahib Ambedkar had. Isn't such a learned, such a scholarly person, such a maker of this country, such a creator of this, profound constitution, whatnot, isn't it? Is entrusting his heart, his wholeheartedness to the Buddha, and has this earnest desire to be born and to be able to see the Buddha face to face. Means something, And of course, when you see the Buddha face to face, you are the Buddha, unless you cannot see the Buddha if you are not yourself a Buddha. And this is something, it's like unraveling some kind of a mystery. Why this comes at a last section, why it is preceded by the four vows, why then, the Baba Ambedkar goes into, getting the testimony of so many people. And why, the 8 books are constituted that way. I can go on talking about the Buddhism for sure. And essentially, bringing it more clarity, as it was Baba Sahib's desire to produce a book that would be that. It's not just a book for us, it's something, it's a source of light, it's a source of life for us. And if you ask me, I was not going to extend it a lot, but if you ask me, it's studying the Buddha and his Dhamma, reading the Buddha and his Dhamma, is a profound sort of experience, and you get humbled by the way the light is dawning from, arising from this great text, the Buddha and his Dhamma. And I hope that more and more people, this was our approach to study the Buddha and his Dhamma. I hope there will be many people, millions and millions, who will be talking about the Buddha and his Dhamma, and millions of millions will be benefiting by it. With that desire, I conclude here today. So, okay, Samiksha, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sir. Jai Bhim, sir.
Samiksha.
So today is our last class, and I just wanted to express my gratitude, sir, for conducting this class since past 2 years, I guess.
Thank you.
More than 1.5 years. So it's been very great learnings of the way you explained all the concepts and everything. It's been great learning, contemplating over the text again and again, reading it, studying it thoroughly, deeply. It really helped me in my daily life, sir. So whenever any ups and downs come in my daily life, so my mind automatically thinks about the Paticca Samutpad. So it's really wonderful, sir. Great teaching. And I wanted to express my gratitude towards you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope, Samiksha, will continue to explore throughout your life the Buddha and his Dhamma. So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Jai Bhim, sir, I am also left to express my deep gratitude to you because I had read Buddha and his Dhamma in the past, 10 years or something, 5 years before, but I never experienced this kind of learnings since last 2 years. The way you arrange this class, it is not just a one teacher and just teaching each chapter, but it's like a fruitful discussion after every class, and that gives more clarity. That's all the people are engaging, try to get the meaning, get the practical meaning, and how we can get more practice out of that, how we can get more core meaning out of that each chapter, and line by line the way you explain and link with those interpretation with today's world, with today's 21st century, and that is so core. That is so fascinating that everybody can go through these videos that we had now. 98 videos we have created for these classes, and these are the historic things and never had done. No one had done that before. That who they have only read that Buddha and his Dhamma, but no one tried to explain the Buddha and his Dhamma in a very simple way, in a very practical way. So that you have done so beautifully, and then again fall in love with the Buddha and his Dhamma again. That every day I used to read at least one line or a 2 line or something, and then reflect every day, the whole day. And if I reflect whole day, I get a new meanings, the new interpretation, new meanings, and how I can do it practically, and how I can follow, and how I can experience it. And that sort of teaching, that kind of the way you taught is so wonderful. That is teaching for lifetime. I can go anytime, in my future days, and I can reflect back to those teachings and learnings that the way you have done. And definitely it is really changing my life. It is really adding more meaning and more profound practice in my daily lives. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for this great beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Grateful to you. So here we end today, and as Pankaj and Shashank is planning next week some kind of presentation by those who have been to our classes and those who like to present.
Yes.
So Shashank, we want to say a word on that?
Yes. So we, whatever we have learned since last couple of years, 98 classes we have attended. So we will gonna present our learnings of the Buddha and his Dhamma, what we have learned so far, and how we can present our learnings and then propagate the Buddha and his Dhamma. So I request all of you to participate in next Saturday class. It will begin at same time, 11 a.m., but then it will be lasted maybe till 12:30 Indian time, and then we will present our learnings of Buddha and his Dhamma and propagate this Buddha and his Dhamma throughout the world. So I request all of you to join and participate as many as possible. Thank you.
And Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya to all of you, and see you next presentation.
Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya.
Jai
Jai
Bhim, Namo Buddhaya.
Bhim, Namo Buddhaya.